Hello there. Is the concept of drawing Canada, Australia, New Zealand and the UK together, CANZUK, an idea whose moment has arrived? Firstly, please subscribe and like this video to give my channel a boost, and I'm always uploading new content, so please do check back daily. As we leave the clutches of the EU for good on the 31st of December, Boris Johnson, Dominic Cummings and David allowing, of course, the UK will need trading partners, especially as we emerge from the dark days of this pandemic. And one idea for this that is gaining momentum is the concept of Canada, Australia, New Zealand and the UK, otherwise known as CANZUK, joining together in some form of alliance to form a trading area. This group could then work as a global partner with the US. As the Wall Street Journal said a couple of days ago, it's time to revive the Anglosphere. The UK should form a new union with Canada, Australia and New Zealand to work as a global partner of the US. We would of course need to build it without the need for a CANZUK Court of Justice or a CANZUK Central Bank or the need for 5 presidents, a CANZUK Commission and a whole parliament to boot. Now this does sound a very promising proposal. As the Wall Street Journal pointed out, the majority of people in those countries speak English and have similar outlooks and shared values. However, as far as I can see at the moment, this is a fledgling idea, not in terms of how long it's been out there, but in terms of substance on how it would look and work in practice. For example, would it be a total free trade area, no limitations? Would that include freedom of movement of workers or people and full recognition of qualifications, etc.? The Express reports that historian Andrew Roberts described the Federation of Nations whose majority of people speak English could be a free trade zone with the free movement of people. And also that the Union could have a mutual defence organisation and combined military capabilities. So many things can be put on the table for discussion. But there are detractors of the idea out there. For example, earlier this year, Lewis Holden, writing in thespinoff.co.nz, called it the answer to a question no one asked. Those proponents claim that the 3 former settler colonies are included because they are all Commonwealth members. Other dynamic economies in the Commonwealth, such as Nigeria, India and Singapore, are excluded, for the mortal sin of not having the Queen as their nominal head of state, he writes. And his conclusion is that it would do very little for New Zealand, saying, which in the end leaves very little for New Zealand out of any CANZUK proposal. Support for the idea might exist, largely due to nostalgia for the British Empire, but its benefits are small. We are likely to get a good free trade deal with Britain anyway, because politically it looks good for Boris Johnson's government. So this may well be a sound proposal, but it's definitely not a shovel-ready project right now. Well, not as far as I can see anyway. But I would put forward the idea that it doesn't have to be a full-blown agreement, signed, sealed and delivered by the end of the year, just so it can fit in with the end of the Brexit implementation period. In fact, that would never work in a month of Sundays. No, it would have to start as a kernel of an ongoing agreement to increase ties over time. Sounds very much like the EU concept of ever closer union, I hear you say. That's why I'm against the idea of calling it the CANZUK Union, as some have suggested. Apart from that, swapping one union so soon after leaving another union would be bait for the rejoin the EU bottom feeders. Especially if there's talk of freedom of movement and a joint military capability when the UK and Canada are already part of NATO. But I would point out that the CANZUK nations are 4 of the 5 nations that make up the powerful Five Eyes intelligence network, that also includes the USA. Jonathan Saxty, the assistant editor of Brexit Watch, is much more upbeat and puts forward a powerful argument for the CANZUK in the Telegraph. As he says, as we emerge from the coronavirus pandemic, we will have to shake off the myopia and small thinking. And as Andrew Roberts, who I mentioned earlier, points out, some sort of CANZUK trade alliance would put it in the superpower bracket with a combined GDP of £4.6 trillion. It would rank fourth behind the US, China and the EU. And another big plus to CANZUK is it would go a long way towards counterbalancing the geopolitical weight of the Chinese panda. As the Express says, the CANZUK idea has been strengthened by the united front that Canada, Australia and the UK have in the face of China's aggressive expansionism and the joint decision to cut Huawei out of 5G networks. And it quotes Andrew Roberts saying, "There is no reason why the American taxpayer should pick up the bill of being the world's policeman forever, and an intimate alliance with CANZUK would provide welcome relief. The cost of curbing and containing China's global ambitions would become the historic role of not one but two superpowers, as it is clear that the EU has no interest in trying to stop Chinese hegemony in Asia. A strong, prosperous CANZUK union would make the Anglosphere a force multiplier in a more uncertain world. Such an arrangement, if properly set up, would possibly also put a large roadblock in the way of the Rejoin the EU campaigners. You can imagine the likes of Gina Miller taking the UK to court to stop it, couldn't you? While Soubry, Clark, Clegg, Blair and Cameron, together with Keir Starmer and his Labour Party, all wave Union Jacks and campaign for us not to join CANZUK. Anyway, a word of warning here over the whole concept, especially as some people have, as I've already said, referred to CANZUK as a sort of union. It's quite easy to romanticise a trading bloc with such huge cultural historical commonality, like with CANZUK. But wasn't that the ticket that Europhiles have used over the past few years to try and get us to remain in the EU, and even now argue for us to rejoin the European Union? Let there be at least some breathing space for the UK to regain its own identity as a union of four nations before we start jumping into potentially another external power base. Let's face it, in the 1970s we joined a mere trading bloc of what started off as 6 nations, which then quietly morphed over decades, mopping up other nations into what is effectively now a superstate, albeit an extremely flawed superstate. And I don't think that's something we want to be repeating anytime soon. So if we do choose to go down this route, we definitely need sovereign red lines laid down right from the very start. Anyway, if you want to hear more from me, please don't forget to subscribe and also press that little bell, or you won't get any notifications. And if you want to see more of me, buy a mug with my mug on it. So what do you think about CANZUK? Please share and comment, and thank you for watching.